Good afternoon, Asia Pacific. Good morning, Middle East. And welcome to another session with Code-Based Technologies at this Singapore FinTech Festival 2021. I am again Samir Khan, and I continue to be that. And I am the Managing Director for Asia Pacific. You guys have been hearing me for the last 2 days. But more so now, today at this time, I have with me Olivier Crespin, who is the co-founder and chief executive officer of Zand. Hi, Olivier. Good to have you here.
Hi, Samir. It's a pleasure to be here, in fact.
Awesome. So, let me start by speaking a little bit about Zand and Olivier himself. Zand plans to be the first fully independent digital bank in UAE with the remit to service both retail and corporate customers. Now, the new fintech, which received the confirmation from the Central Bank of UAE earlier this year, claims to be the first of its kind in the country. Olivier, since taking on this particular role in 2018, he has focused on leveraging hybrid digital banking strategies to establish Zand as the first fully digital bank in the region to combine both retail and corporate banking. Olivier brings over 20 years of extensive expertise and leadership roles in digital banking and fintech across Latin America, the US, and Asia. He recognizes the need for the customer-centric approach to humanize the banking industry. Prior to Zand, Olivier has been an award-winning leader at CIMB Bank, DBS, and Citigroup. Across those roles, he led flagship programs into new markets, including India and Indonesia, and spearheaded the implementation of innovative technologies. So, Olivier, wonderful to talk to you. Welcome on this live cast at the Singapore FinTech Festival. My first question would be, you've worked with traditional organizations. You've had an extensive career around digital banking. So what would you say would be the most important gaps that you see in the world of traditional banking as it is today?
Right. So that's a great question, Samir. In fact, first of all, I would like to say hello to people in Singapore. Right, I'm here from Dubai, and it's a pleasure to be participating at the Singapore FinTech Festival again. Right, so that's great. So I think to come back to your question, Samir, is a fundamental one, right? So what is the difference between a traditional bank and a digital bank?
Right.
And I see a few aspects, right? One is the most obvious one, but I think it's probably the most important. You don't have a legacy when you start a new digital bank.
Right.
And for traditional bank to transform themselves, while it's possible, it's a little bit more difficult because of the legacy. So, and when we talk about legacy, people always think about technology legacy, but I think it's more about the mindset legacy, the way the bank are organized, etc., even the P&L, which is a big resistance to change. And, when you have very well-established organization, and it's the same in every domain, not only in banking.
Indeed.
When you are a very well-established organization, you always, when you try to disrupt the way you are doing things, you are going to disrupt maybe and cannibalize your business. So that's first kind of issue. The second aspect is that when you want to build a digital bank, you need to combine two DNA. And DNA of banking, which is around risk management, very important, compliance with regulation, financial expertise, trust, security. That obviously you don't want to compromise. And the bank do it pretty well, right? The traditional bank. And obviously when you build a digital bank, you need to have this kind of expertise as well.
True.
But you need to combine it with the DNA of digital, And it's more difficult to do when you're in a traditional bank. You need to be able to shift from a product-centric or bank-centric organization to a customer-centric organization,
True.
which is
True.
a big shift.
Right.
You need as well to be able to leverage better the analytics. And it's not that banks don't have analytics, because in any bank you have all the tools and toys you can
Right.
dream about in terms of the analytics. But the prime, it is built with usually an absence of MDM, an absence of kind of architecture that really you can only build from the day one when we build the bank.
True.
It's very difficult to be able to leverage analytics properly.
Indeed.
And also the third aspect is to be able to move everything on a cloud, which is allowing you to really gain scalability, computing power, etc. So all this can be done from a traditional bank, but is very difficult for two reasons. One is require big change from the people who are there.
Right.
And second, to attract different people that are usually very difficult to retain in banks. So for us, when you build a digital bank with a different kind of business model, etc., you can attract people coming from Google, people coming from Virgin, people that's and essentially we have, for the last 2.5 years, we have these people, which I never managed to do when I was in a traditional bank.
Yeah, indeed. And of course, traditional banks have been, and you rightly said, like, for example, it's hard to hold on to good talent, and there is a lot of legacy, and probably the kind of skill set is needs, and both from a cultural perspective, the technology perspective, that drive needs to be there. But traditional banks, it's not that they're not trying to be digital, or the buzzword. I mean, the sentiment is that all financial institutions, in one way or the other, have at least embarked on that journey, but very slow. COVID may have potentially accelerated some bits, but I still think that fundamentally that change is quite slow. Any thoughts on that? I mean, why do you feel traditional banks have been kind of slow to adopt this digital change?
So obviously, there are banks that are going faster than others, right? You have banks, my previous bank, right, TBS, CMB, are moving pretty well, right, on a digitalization space. I think it has also been accelerated by COVID. What I'm looking, a few years ago, to open a bank account online, already you can do it. It's pretty easy. It can take 90 seconds. And nowadays, if you want to travel, right? If you want to go visit a country these days, with all the things you need to do online, is even more difficult than opening a bank account, right? Yeah. So for example, you want to go spend a week somewhere, you have to upload your passport, you have to upload your vaccination certificate, you have to upload. So people got a crash course on getting familiar with using QR code, uploading documentation, submitting, So that's helped to accelerate. Also, obviously, with the fact that people didn't want for a while to have any more human contact, physical, I mean.
Yes.
I think people as well were very keen to really start moving to digital. And for me, if there is a great outcome of COVID, I don't think we can say there is any great outcome, but take any taxi nowadays in the world, they all accept contactless payments.
Right.
I can see here in Dubai before, like 2 years ago, you go to a taxi, no, sorry, sir, my machine doesn't work. I don't know how to use it, or I don't have a machine. Nowadays, 100% it works, they use it. It's not even a question anymore. Are you going to be paid by cash or by card, right? So I guess most people don't know, because of security reasons, they don't want to touch physical notes. It has accelerated significantly. So a lot of banks as well see their business moving from physical to digital. But I think one of the key limitation of a traditional bank to really become a full digital player is they need to be built as a platform.
Right.
And very often when I define what I am or what the organization we are building is, I don't define it as a bank. I define it as a platform with a banking license. So that means that you should be able to connect with many different ecosystems in a very seamless way.
Yes.
To be able to not only having a front-end banking activity, but be able to support all the pipes of digital businesses that exist in a country, but also digital people and also traditional corporate who are transforming themselves into becoming digital as well.
Right. Yeah, quite interesting that, and right, you are, in terms of, I think, the usability and the ease of use, and I guess even the habits of the general public at large has changed. And yeah, we can't really call it merits of having a pandemic, but I think it has more so help people to avoid contact, and therefore sometimes with, and in most of the countries with Uber and Grab here in Singapore, you kind of pay everything over the app. So it has been easy. So tell me, Olivier, more about now being in traditional banks, driving digital transformation, but here you are building the entire challenger bank. So what is exciting about this role where you start greenfield and you build a bank? What excites you about that?
So it's really exciting, and it's an amazing journey, right? I always say it's a once in a lifetime opportunity when you have the opportunity to build a bank from scratch, right? Because and there are some stuff I underestimate when I start, because when you build a digital bank on top of an existing bank, you have already your risk team, you have already the compliance team, you have already a lot of support, even HR, everything. Here we have to start everything. So this gives you a lot of advantage because you can rethink all your process, you can rethink all your policy, you can rethink everything. But it has also some inconvenience because you really start from zero, right?
Yes.
But that's great. I think the key one is to be able to redefine the business. We don't have the silos, and I think it's a very important point between retail and corporate bank. And I think, of course, you have some people who are more specialized, but from an organization point of view, not having the silos, you can do much more because you can approach your retail and corporate client in a very holistic manner, which sometimes is limited in a traditional organization. As well, the key part is really to be able to leverage the latest technology. So defining what we believe is an optimum technology architecture and data architecture, which is going to allow us to really do things that we believe others cannot do. The last aspect, and very important, is what I've been extremely excited about, is to be able to define and build a brand as well. And spending time understanding, okay, what was very important for me is, because we are going to start from day one, we can try to define what is the essence, what we want to represent for people, what we want to stand for. And from that, define a name, define a logo, and name, logo, everything should represent what you are going to do. So let me spend a few seconds, explaining what Zand means, and because
please, we'd love to know.
Tell everybody is when you explain the story of Zand and logo, meaning, etc., you will be able to understand what we want to do. Please. So Zand is a contraction of sand, because obviously there is a lot of sand here in UAE, and strength in Arabic, which is Zand. Z-E-N-D. So we combine the two in Zand, a strong sand. And why sand, beside the fact that there is a lot of sand here, is because when you look at all the particles of sands, they're all unique and beautiful. So that represents our clients who are all unique, beautiful, who have different needs. That also represents our employees who are all unique and beautiful and have also different skills.
Different skills, yeah.
That represent our partners, and one of our partners is code-based. We are so unique, beautiful, some skills. And the idea is that when you bring all these particles of sand together, you start creating a community, you start creating an ecosystem, you start creating be able to build bridges, cities. Imagine a dune of sand that is moving and that you cannot stop, because together it's really meaning Zand, all these particles of sand coming together is represent that we are going to leverage the best everywhere for the good of the client. And our logo is an orb that is not finished, because we'll always be in constant evolution. Last 2 points, sand is silicon, so it's digital.
Yes.
And if you read Zand backward, it do DNA Z,
yes,
which means the latest kind of technology or organization, modern organization, the latest generation of organization. So all this, represent what we want to be and how we build the platform. And when you see, I mentioned a lot about ecosystem community. A lot of the financing we are going to do is around this. A lot of our product is around community ecosystem. So we have product called ecosystem link financing. We are going to finance SME because we understand the ecosystems they are belonging to. So that's what is exciting, right? To build a bank from zero, because we can define everything starting from the name.
Absolutely, indeed. And I must say that, your articulation of the story behind Zand and how you've put it together and equated that to technology, people, partners, ecosystem, and a financial services institution itself. Brilliant. I mean, it sounds really good. I just wanted to take another point here. From a neobank perspective, this is a new, fresh bank. How will it be impacting financial inclusion? Because there is also, a sentiment around in the marketplace, in the financial services and fintech at large, that challenger banks, neobanks are also going to solve this or address this area of financial inclusion. Just wanted to hear your thoughts as a CEO of Zand.
Yes, so that's also a key things, right? We are focusing on is again the community and the different particular of sense of people coming together. And because we are digital, I think it's much easier to onboard people.
Yes.
Many banks have a limitation. For us, it's as you know, I think Jacques Ma was saying, when he wants to, it doesn't need to open a new shop, it just adds more servers, but it's pretty much the same. And we want really to go not only in UAE, we are going to go and expand in Africa and in other parts of the world, where in many cases only 20-25% of the population have a bank account. So we are embarking in the program, which is, I call it financial education, financial literacy, and financial inclusion.
Wow. Yeah.
So first of all, you need to provide the education. Banking is something that can be complex. That's nobody asks about finance, right? You don't learn at school about finance. You don't talk with your parents about finance usually. So it's something you try to find a friend, or you try to figure out, and sometimes you have questions you hesitate to ask.
Yeah.
So education, we are embarking into a program on education as well about finance. The education will lead into financial literacy, meaning people be able to understand how to save, how to invest, how to secure and protect what you have. And then when you have this kind of baseline, you are able to do financial inclusion. So a lot of focus on that. In fact, we are partnering. I've been speaking about it at the Expo 2020, which is here in Dubai this year.
Yes, indeed.
And we have like a series of 6 talks about financial inclusion. As part of the Expo, Zand, the company, even if we are just starting, is a key sponsor of one of the 6 key topics discussed at the Expo 2020, And the book is going to be released on financial inclusion and will be the kind of one issuing these books. We have been selected for this. So that's something we are really close
Very
to a heart. Yes.
excellent. I mean, this is such a good initiative. The truth is that the criticality is that when people are not included in or don't get financial services, it becomes hard for them to access loans for emergency spending and so on. And your institution is. I mean, I love the ideology that we have to go out, educate. Let's find out ways to educate, and therefore they become your customer and an important user and get the financial services that they can avail. But then a lot of companies, a lot of neobanks are popping about in the marketplace. I mean, be it in Southeast Asia, be it in Middle East, we've seen a boom of that happening in the North Americas, more so in Europe, probably. I'm just trying to understand, do you see the role of traditional banks? How do you see that from a traditional banking perspective, their role in the financial ecosystem? I know they will be here. I mean, there were questions that financial institutions, traditional ones, whether it's a big threat or not, but I don't see that. But what are your thoughts, like with so many neobanks popping up, around the world? Where do you see the role of traditional banks in the financial ecosystem?
So I think some will be able to adjust in the financial ecosystem. Also have big limitation because of cost, right? And to come back about the financial inclusion, right? Again,
Mm-hmm.
even all banks, pretty much all of them, they charge you $2 or whatever to just per month, right? Just to have a
Yes.
bank account,
Yes.
right? So
Yes.
that shows that they are not really committed into this,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
But to be able to connect to ecosystem and to be able to connect to Web 3.0 and so on, right? You really
Yes.
need to be built as a platform. And I think this is a key limitation.
Hmm.
You need as well to be built as a platform, and you need to be able to do a business based on big transaction volumes and not kind of a smaller limited number of volume with a
Right.
high cost. So
Right.
that's a bank to transform from this to from a transaction which are highly priced,
Mm-hmm.
etc., and
Mm-hmm.
to go to a model where you charge a fraction of it
Right.
is
Right.
you need to have the structure. So to connect to the ecosystem, again, you need to have all your technology aligned. You need to have, I guess, everything on the cloud. You need
Right.
to get your organization, your structure aligned around it. Otherwise, it's going to be very, very difficult. It's not impossible. Of course, some will
Mm-hmm.
do it, right?
Right. Of course. Of course.
And they are good, great bank, right? Again, I mentioned DBS. I think they do
Yes.
fantastic things, even on the crypto side, on a DeFi and so on. Right?
Right.
They are really moving fast, but
Right.
it's easier for a bank that is organized as a platform
Right. Right.
from day one.
Mm. So wonderful. So, I actually applaud the work that you're doing. Really want to wish you well. And I think I'm really looking forward to the book. On the financial inclusion, that's something that I love to learn about, because when you look at, and you've been here in Asia Pacific for a while, so you know that countries like Indonesia, Philippines, and Mekong, the three countries, Cambodia, Laos, and Vietnam, there's a large percentage of unbanked and probably a larger percentage of underbanked people. And, and that's why the ideologies and the thought process, it's good to understand what Zand is doing differently that makes it a unique player. Excellent to have you here, and hopefully I think people have enjoyed this session. Olivier will be a familiar face to many here in Asia Pacific, so I'm happy everybody's getting to see him live here. And thank you, Olivier, for participating at this. I mean, love to talk to you, and we should speak again.
Thank you very much, Samir. And look, for people who are following us, you can always follow me in LinkedIn.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
I reply 100% of the message I receive on LinkedIn. So
Wonderful.
you can always connect. Okay,
Wonderful.
thank you all.
Yeah. All right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.